What up, brothers? Welcome back to Throwing Hands. Per usual, it's your boy Jacob, and alongside me, Daniel is, but yet another special guest, lightweight UFC contender, Khama Worthy's joining us. Khama, how you doing?
Good, brother. Get ready
All
for this.
right, all right. So we're gonna just kick this right off. How'd you get your start in MMA?
Uh, it kind of goes back. I've always been a martial artist to a certain degree. And then I was in New York, and someone tried to tell me about MMA, and I didn't know what the hell it was. I was like, wait, what? And then I just kind of watched some videos, and I moved back to Pittsburgh and started training, and it's like 13 years later, here I am.
All right. So, how'd you get this Death Star nickname?
That comes from my first amateur fight. I hit this guy, and I knocked him out. It was pretty bad. And someone said it looked like something from the Death Star, and it kind of like one thing linked to the next. Then within the next three fights, that was the nickname, and it just ran with it.
So you mentioned coming up and getting your start in Pittsburgh, and you've advocated for some other Pittsburgh fighters to get their shot in the UFC. And I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia, so I'm pretty aware of that Western PA grittiness that is certainly part of the culture. Is that something you think helps define you as a fighter and helps you kind of have a leg up on your opponents?
Yeah, I mean, I remember from my last amateur fight, Duke Rufus, that's actually where I met him at. He was commentating, and he was just explaining how, just fighting in a tri-state area, the amateurs and not ranked are just different just because the high level of wrestling. So you have to be a little bit more complete MMA fighter to have your career grow up, start to happen in the tri-state area and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think just training in Pittsburgh, we're just a little bit grittier than everybody else. You know what I mean? Like a little bit more willing to get dirty. I mean, it's just from my fighting style and just my teammates and everyone else how they fight. So yeah, I definitely think it's that tri-state area is pretty dangerous. Fighters coming through there.
All right. So you come into your first pro fight. You're getting paid. What's that feeling like stepping into that cage for the first time as a professional for you?
Well, we're getting paid like $300 and shit. I ain't fucking paid. I mean, it was basic. Like it wasn't really over the top. I guess you can say you kind of have the dreams. You're like, yeah, I'll be in the UFC in 4 fucking fights. And then I got choked out in my first fight, so that didn't happen. So I mean, but that's kind of the feeling that you're thinking, you're young and dumb, so you think everything's unstoppable, and you think you're the man, and yada yada yada. But I think I came to realize what fighting was. Luckily for me, early in my career, I found out that fighting's a lot more than people perceive it.
So you mentioned you lost your first fight, you win your second, and then your third fight is against Paul Felder, obviously a guy that so many UFC fans are going to recognize, and you guys fought each other really early in both of your careers. What was it like fighting a guy like that earlier in your career, and then kind of watching both of you come up through the ranks and then reach your own heights in the UFC?
Yeah, man. At that time when I fought Paul Felder, I was a lot smaller. I was supposed to make the drop to 45 because I fought amateur at 55, and I was supposed to make the drop to 45 to go pro. But I was like, nah. I fought 2 pro fights, and they were big. They were just bigger because they're just much bigger. I used to walk around 164 pounds, and I would fight at 155. I wouldn't start cutting weight until the week of the fight, and then I cut weight. But with Paul, he was a real fucking 55er because right after that I started going down to 45 because I was like, oh, these motherfuckers are huge. So it was wild to see him move forward because our careers, I lost to him, and then I won 6 in a row. I think he got to UFC 4 or 5 fights afterwards. So we were kind of similar. Then I lost again. Then I remember when he made it into UFC and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see us get to. Paul's always been a cool ass dude. He's always been a real, I've never held grudges against people that beat me or things against people that I beat or anything. But Paul's always been a super, super cool dude.
All right. So after that loss to Paul Felder, you go on a 6-fight tear. What would you contribute that 6-fight tear to?
Cutting weight. I stopped fighting at 45. I started fighting at 55. And I only lost 2 pro fights at the time. I lost my first pro fight. I had a mental hiccup, and then I lost to Paul Felder. At the time, he was just a bigger, stronger 55er, and he had good skill. I'm not taking away from his skill set. He had good skills on top of being a bigger, stronger fighter. And then once I started cutting weight, it became a little easier, just because the fighters were more my size and strength-wise. Then I lost 2 fights at 45, and then my body started to get bigger. The weight cut started to become harder. I started walking around at like 170. And then when I won, I won 2 more fights. I fought Valaca and I fought Castillo. I missed weight for Valaca, and I almost missed weight for Castillo because I just couldn't get off those extra 2 pounds. It just became harder and harder for me to get off. And then I was too big then. I started to walk around at like 170, 75, 76 pounds, and I would be trying to make 145, and it was really hard. And then I started to take fights on short notice, because I used to be able to do that. I'm like, 3 weeks, yeah, 4 weeks, yeah, no problem. And it was just not the fucking case. Weight just wasn't coming off the way it was.
All right, so after that 6-fight tear, you lose 4-6. Would you say part of that was leaving the Pittsburgh area and moving to other promotions?
No, it was the weight cut.
Oh yeah, you said that.
It was the weight cut. But when I lost Billy Q, that had nothing to do with the weight cut. It was a good fight, tough fight. I made 45 really easy there, no problem. Then I lost to Matt Bassett. That had nothing to do with the weight cut. It was just too soon of a fight. I just fought Billy Q, then I fought Matt Bassett short notice. My manager at the time was a fucking idiot. And he like, it's on TV. That wasn't the right fight for me to take at the time. I think he had twice as much fights as me. I was in his hometown. It wasn't the smarter move. I should have got one more lineup fight and then jumped straight to a TV fight or something like that. Because if I would have won at CES, they wouldn't try to get me back because I was fighting their guy from their hometown. So it wasn't really a good opportunity for me. But at the time, you're young and your manager's like, I'll get you a fight on TV. I'm like, fuck that. Yeah, I'll take the fight. And I took that fight on like 4 weeks notice as well because somebody had pulled out from his fight and stuff. So, and then after that, everything that happened after that was even the wins, even the fights that I won, I still felt like shit winning because my body was just flat. I just sucking too much out of it.
So after your loss to Kyle Nelson, you really got back on track after that, and it's a win streak that you're still on. Obviously, you mentioned the weight cutting issues. Is that really how did that kind of come to pass that you were able to get over that, or is that still something you're dealing with at this point? Because the way you're fighting recently on such a big win streak, it seems like you figured something out.
No, it's as you go with time and stuff. I mean, nothing really significantly changed over the top. I did start doing a little bit more wrestling, but my fights aren't really displayed that much. I mean, too much wrestling. I don't really use my wrestling for an offensive thing unless I desperately need to. But I'm still the same fighter I was before. I do the same stuff. Over time you get better. So I tightened up all the holes that I had in my game. I squeezed and made them tighter. But the biggest thing for me was the weight cut. My strength coach was telling me to go up a weight cut and everything. And now I don't have to worry about just cutting weight. Before I would have to worry about cutting weight. I wouldn't even think about the fight. The most important thing about the fight would be I have to make sure I make weight. Like now I walk around like maybe if I'm really big, like 180, 182, maybe. I normally stick around like 178, 176. So I can make weight on 4 weeks notice, no problem. I'm staying active and stuff like that. But I mean, I did like buy my gym and I started running the gym. I started coaching. So that definitely helps with your performance mentally as well. I had a kid, so that kind of changes everything as well. But the biggest part, they had the biggest amount of income the biggest amount of impact would definitely be the weight cut. Like when I fought Kyle Nelson, I had to cut. I remember I'm driving on my way up to Canada. I'm still 14 pounds over. and I have to weigh in like 3 days, and I'm like dying, like barely drinking water, hitting the sauna every day. It was just too much.
All right. So before you hit the UFC, you're on a 5-fight tear, and then you get that call. What was that feeling like when you got that call that, hey, you're going to the UFC?
I was pissed the fuck off because I was drunk the night before. I was at a Common concert because I had just fought, so I was celebrating a little bit. Me and my man went out to a concert. Went to see Common. It was great. I had a little drink. I don't really drink too much, but I went out, had a little bit of drinks, and then my manager, like, they had kind of offered me a Devontae fight before, but my manager was like, hey, yeah, you might be able to get this fight. It depends on. And then like they went with what's his name, Clay Collar instead. And I was like, yeah, I get that. You know, they wanted him to fight somebody that's been in the UFC. I understood it. So, and then they called me and he offers it to me. So I almost said no. I was like this close to saying no because I was tired, I was hungover, and I realized I was probably like 19 pounds over. And it did. I know the weight would come off because I just cut the weight, but I really didn't feel like doing it. But obviously I did, and everything happened the way it was supposed to.
So you step out into that mat, onto the octagon for the first time. What was the feeling like at that time? Like, I'm sure it was a pretty surreal experience.
Yeah, it was really, for me, it was weird because it just felt natural. Like, I've been saying that since I got to UFC. I've always told people I knew I was going to get there or get somewhere or somewhat on the big stage of fighting. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. I'd never really been promoted. I'd never really been pushed to the front or whatever. So when I got there, I was like, yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, fuck y'all. It's about fucking time type feeling. So it felt really not, even you see by the fight, like I didn't have any jitters. I felt really natural. It was weird. I don't know. And the same thing in my last fight. Like I feel like I don't, like some people feel like I have to prove. I don't feel like I have anything to prove because I've been fighting tough competition throughout my career. So it's not like, oh, I have to show everybody that I belong here. I'm just like, y'all motherfuckers been taking forever to get me here. So I'm like, I just do what I naturally do.
Would you say you thrive with that kind of underdog mindset where you're going out and saying, you know, what's the problem? Why haven't you put me in this position before? I'm better than the guys you're matching me up with.
I don't believe I'm better than anybody. I try to explain that to my students. I don't believe anyone's better than anyone. It's all just about who shows up that night. Now I do believe that I'm more willing to like engage and more willing to lose than most people. Most people I think in the UFC, especially, fighters fight not to lose. They don't fight to win. They fight not to lose. I'm the total opposite. I always fight to try to win. So I think I accept that mentality a little bit more than most people do. But I don't think I'm like better than it. Like anyone, like we're in a fist fight. Any miscalculation, one wrong read, and you're fucking kicked in the head, or you're getting punched, or you're slammed, or you're getting choked. So I don't think better than anybody. I just think I understand the essence of combat a little bit more, and I'm willing to take the things that need to be done to get the job done.
So after the Devontae Smith fight a couple months ago, almost 2 months ago, you fought Luis Pena. What was the difference in preparation because of the whole COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, again, there was very small preparation for that because I just reopened my gym and I was getting things back together, and my manager hit me up and like gave me I think I had like 3.5 weeks to get ready for it. Luckily for me, one of my main training partners is John Diasus. He just fought for Bellator last week. He's a slick ass southpaw, explosive, out of pocket. So when they told me about Pena, I was like, yeah. Like the only problems I would really have getting used to is how long he was, and that was a little bit of a problem. Like not striking wise, but on the ground, he was a little like the length when he wrapped his legs around, he was just different. Nothing I felt like that before.
So, you get that win. You're coming back in September, I believe, coming up on the 5th. What are your expectations going into this against Ottman?
Violence. I mean, I try to get people that people think I'm joking. I'm like, it's a fight. So you can't expect anything about it. Like as soon as you start to expect things, as soon as something goes unexpectedly, then you're confused. You're sitting there caught in transition. And you're thinking, I expect there to be violence. It's a fist fight. So like we're gonna go. He has a 90% finish ratio. So from what it looks like, his mindset is very similar to mine. So I can kind of comprehend that. So I mean, that's going to be a fast-paced fight.
All right, man. So after you get this dub next week, what are your plans looking forward?
Can't move past it. I can't move past it. like for me, I don't think about. I have somewhat of a plan of things I would like to do, but I don't put too much energy into it. Like you can't. For me personally, in the fight game, like how many times do you see it of people talking about what they're going to do after this fight, and then they're like, oh shit, that didn't happen. Oh, that did. I mean, like I can name 7 off the top of my head. Freaking Corey Anderson, he was super cool. He thought, I want to fight John Jones. The next nigga his fucking head split open. Sean O'Malley was talking all this shit, and like people are looking. You can't look past. There's another person trying to kill you with illegal certain sets of rules, and they're trying to kill you, and you're thinking about who you're gonna fight next. Of course, like it kind of passes out, but that's what's on the tip of your brain. My head coach, Dave Sachs, tells me for a fight you need 18 minutes. For a regular fight, you need 18 minutes of pure focus. And in order to be able to give myself that 18 minutes of pure focus, I can't be sitting there thinking about other stupid shit about what's next or pay or that or this or that. I need 18 minutes of pure focus. So many people, I watch fights and I know so many people don't do that. They just don't focus. They're just not focused on the fight. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of mental, more than physical. It takes a lot of mental discipline to tell yourself that you have a task at hand and that's all you deal with. Like I think Khabib's really big on that. Just the way that he fights, the way that I think how he approaches fights, he deals with the task at hand. He doesn't think about anything else but the task at hand. He deals with that.
All right. Well, that's a great note to end it on, I think. So, Khama, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me at the DeathStar_1 on Twitter and Instagram. And I have a fan page on Facebook. I'm just ramping up and stuff like that. And hit me up. Talk to me. Use the cool words. Don't say no stupid shit. I say stupid shit back.
All right, guys. You can catch Khama Worthy on September 5th on Fight Night. Khama, we want to thank you for coming on, man.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
All right, really appreciate it. Khama Worthy, everybody.